Okay. Oh, it's focusing weird. Bit of a different video today. My room looks like shit. So I'm just gonna be talking while arranging my room. Yes, I'm too tall for the frame. Kinda. I'll be fine. Be a little further away. Okay. So, basically today I went to a farm and we kind of just like talked a lot about future plans. It was a business trip a little bit. It was really cool, but at some point we sat down to talk about, I don't know, it was kind of like a point in the meeting where they were kind of talking about raising children, because the owner of that farm was a father, and he had all these kids that were doing the same business that he was. Well, kinda. They're in different departments of the same building. And he was talking about how when you're raising your kids, the marker of success isn't how good their grades are. It's the marker of success is actually how well you were able to instill in them a good worldview. And by instill, he doesn't mean like cram it into their brain or force them to think a certain way, but just to, it's kind of like, it's our job to, it's a job as a parent to like bring someone into the world and then, figure out who that person is. Which I never thought about it like that, because it's like, yeah, when you're creating life, you're essentially just bringing into existence a person and allowing them to become their own person. And I think that's really sick, and I think that's really cool. I think never having like thought of it like that before, and now just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And just generally speaking, thinking about kind of the weird cruelty of life, and kind of thinking about the suffering everyone feels, and the suffering that I have felt before in different ways, maybe not as crazy as many people out there. But yeah, that kind of worldview idea got kind of stuck with me a little. And I was like, huh, that's really interesting. It's really cool. And oh my god, my room is very messy. I'm gonna wear this shirt tomorrow. Probably gonna wear these pants tomorrow too. But yes. And it's like, okay, what is like the purpose of a worldview then? And I was thinking about that. It's like, what realistically, like what worldview do I have, and what worldview do other people around have, and why is that like a good or bad thing? Like I said previously, good and bad are human creations, so according to humanity, it's like a good and bad thing to have. And what's a good or bad worldview? And in this case, it's something that, in terms of what's good, in terms of people and community, it's what does the best amount of what's fair and what's beneficial and has merit to us as humans. So it's like, I don't know, kindness. You should be kind to others. That's like a nice worldview, or like a good worldview, right? Intelligence is something to be proud of, and to really like keep as an important thing in your head. Those kinds of things. It's like, or losing your sense of self is not great, right? Like part of the thing about, I think it was Islam, that I don't know if someone's watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a teaching that says, and this is the whole reason they don't have any substances in general, is anything that alters the mind to prevent you from acting in accordance to, like, losing your, I guess, free will, quote unquote. Anything that loses that is considered bad, I guess. It's not like ideal, obviously. And that's like a worldview, and it's like, oh, that's not bad, And in many ways, yeah, I think that's like, okay, if I think about, so generally speaking, like obviously things like you shouldn't hate people, and you should help people whenever you can. Those are generally considered good things, or like maybe those are less worldviews, and maybe those feel like instructions. I don't know. What does count as a worldview? Well, let's take it literally. A worldview, a view on the world. An optimistic view is a worldview. And what constitutes optimism? Something that is anti-negative. What are negative things? So like death, suicide. They touched on suicide as well. Yeah. But yeah, just the idea that you kind of have to allow gently to convince this person of a worldview as they come into life makes a lot of sense, as opposed to like grades, and if someone learns how something works, that's what it reminds me of, is like someone learning how something works as opposed to what should I say? Like the reasons why, as opposed to what to do. It's the difference between set your ISO to 200, or 500 if you're using S-Log. And it's like, if they're just like, okay, then they'll just do that all the time. And that's something that I would have done, right? But then I've changed and I've developed I've developed a bit of a different worldview in that sense, which is like, oh, okay, because I was like, oh, learn how to do things. No, learn why you do things, and the how comes after, right? Well, not necessarily all the time. It's good to keep it in parallel if you can, right? Kind of like a bit of a step ladder. Sometimes the how comes first and the why comes after, or the why, but generally speaking, the why is discovered, but my worldview has shifted from learn how to do things to learn why you do things, and then the how can come later, kind of mindset, and that's been very beneficial for me, because as someone who used to chase the hows, the whys now start to click, and it strengthens the hows, not because it's like it's a bit of a creativity thing, It's like, learn how to play a guitar. Okay, so you gotta learn the scales, and you gotta learn where the notes lie and the caged system and so on and so forth. But also, like, the why. It's like, why do you play guitar? And I feel like a lot of people would just be like, I don't know, I just liked it, which is fair. But if you ask a musician, a creative person, it's like, I play guitar because it was like an outlet for me. I can make whatever I want. I like creating something. That's my why. It's like, I want to make something, or I want to express my emotions, or I want to be virtuosic in this instrument, right? There's a very big difference between someone who says, I don't know, I just liked it, and I wanted to get better at it, right? Like, the point was to get better. That's the why. Yeah, and if you have a why, the how becomes second nature almost, right? Yeah, and that's why I think nowadays it's getting much easier for me to pick up the guitar and just play, because I have like a list of whys, It's like, why do I want to play guitar? I think it's cool and I want to be cool. What's another reason? It's like, I want to be creative, I pick up the guitar because I want to be able to express myself musically in a way that's intuitive and not limiting. And guitar is the easiest way and most fun way that I've been able to do that so far. And so, and then obviously there's the part of like how. So I'm learning songs. Right now I'm learning Smells Like Teen Spirit, which is strange because it's like, you already know guitar, and I'm sure if you practice you can do a lot of harder songs. Why are you doing Smells Like Teen Spirit, which is kind of like a super easy song? I don't know, it's a cool song. It's a cool song, and I wanted to learn from the ground up, and I'm learning that the technical skill behind Teen Spirit is just the right amount of challenging for me right now.
like just the right amount of stress-free challenging. I was able to get pretty much the whole song down in about, I'd say 15 minutes, maybe slightly more, right? As my dad was taking a business call. And I don't know, I really liked that.
It was just enough for me to learn within one session, and the results were that I could play something really cool that I've always wanted to play, in a way that well, of course, the way that I wanted to play comes later, but because first is playing the damn notes, second is playing the damn notes well. And wow, that second part is hard, but I've got the first part down, and it's fun. It's so fun, because I realized I've learned solos, but I've never performed solos, if that makes sense. Well, I have, but not very well. And I think about my friend Danny. I'm sure he's fine with me mentioning it, but I think about it, and he's so wonderfully virtuosic in drums. He did a ABRSM grade 8 for drums, I believe. And wow, the kind of rhythm that he has is just unmatched, and the fact that he's able to just, do what he does on I'm not gonna arrange my bed too well, because I'm gonna sleep anyway. But the fact that he's able to play so well, it doesn't make me I don't know if jealous is the way to describe it. I mean, or envious. Okay, here's the thing. It's one thing to admire, it's another thing to be jealous of, right? I would say I admire Dad. I wouldn't say well, the kind of jealousy I have is not ugh, why can he do that and I can't? I want that. But more like wow, he can do that really well. I'd like to be able to do that as well, too, right? And I don't know. It's kind of like friendly competition, I suppose. He's so skillful with the way he does things. I can't say talented. I literally can't, because I've seen his progress, right? Talent, if you were defining it as something you're born with, he wasn't born with all that. No, right? He was very much like me. All the framing he did, all of the techniques he had, all the things that he was doing, or at least in terms of film and VFX, was very much like I've seen his progress. And once upon a time, he made shitty iMovie videos as well. And that's really cool. And I really admire that. And I'm just now learning the currency of effort. How much effort it requires to get good at something, right? Before, I was just feeling like, oh, it's so shit to feel this way when I'm learning things, because it's not going anywhere. Or I would zone out and just hyperfixate on getting the thing done and learn many skills. That's what I did. I have a large breadth of skills because I kind of just mindlessly do the task until I get it.
which is cool. I can yo-yo, I can animate, I can do things like that. But it was more to just. It was always just like to be able to animate, to be able to play guitar, to be able to play the ukulele, to be able to if we're using video game terms, to be able to use a specific combo, right? Like just practice the combo all the time and then do it in the game, and it's like I have done the combo. I know how to do that now. But it's like, but I'm missing the point, the why, right? And in video game terms, it's like, if my why was to just practice combos, that's fine. But I've always hated that it never got anywhere, if that makes sense. Like, I was able to do a combo, but that never translated me into winning games, you know? And there's something inspiring about my brother, which he's a really big gamer, but he's when I was so focused on getting the technical skill of first person shooter aim down, he was busy trying to find tricks, and he would goof off and do his funny little things to figure out a way in which he can play the game in his own way and win via using his brain and his tactics, as opposed to a technical skill that you can develop. And there are many technical layers to that as well, but the thing that inspires me most about that is that he goes out and he thinks through why things are like good decisions to make, as opposed to, oh, I can just click heads really fast and really well, and that's all I need. And that isn't all you need. It is important for you to click heads. That's part of it. But it's even more important to, well, no, not even more important. It's probably equally, if not slightly more important, to have good tactics, you know, to execute to have a plan and to execute it, you know, and maybe not even a plan, maybe just like a plan of action, the intuition to do that. And you know, obviously that doesn't come from just spamming the firing range. That comes from playing games, which is why you get good at those things in the first place for a lot of people, right? It's so that you can compete against people in a game of something. And that's why there's like so many ways of winning the game. And it's not just because people are good at aim, but also because of how they went about winning the game, you know. And that's really cool. And there was a movie that I watched a long time ago that I appreciated back then, but I felt it was just good. Now I feel it in a different level, obviously because I have lots of things, personal things happening in my life, yada yada yada. But that movie is Dead Poets Society. And the thing that I really, really, really love about that movie is that... Is this old? It doesn't smell old, but it kind of look old, so I'm just gonna... the thing that I really, really, really love about that movie is just how... I don't know, Robin Williams did something really, really, really special there. And the book in and of itself is described,
well, I haven't read the book. I probably should. But the movie, rewatching the clips and seeing things like, what will your verse be? In like in your life. If you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely give it a watch. Give the movie a watch, please. I almost guarantee you won't regret it. I say almost because maybe you will regret it the first time if you kind of don't get it. If you were like me and you were just like, I wonder why they're like moving around the way that they are. Which is funny because like one scene kind of describes that very perfectly. And the scene where they're kind of like walking around, marching initially, and then he's like, walk in the way that you would walk, but there's so many nuggets of wisdom in that movie, and that's what I'm like. Those little bits of nuggets of wisdom is something that I'm coming to deeply appreciate more, and I really want to rewatch the movie now. Not just like watch clips of it on the way to a farm somewhere. Yeah, but what was I gonna say? Yeah. So the thing that I was resonating with a little bit was the fact that I don't have anywhere. Wait, hold on. I don't have anywhere to place my bag after I enter my room. Now that I think about it, I should have like a table or something there to drop it. Yeah, because it's always just hanging around on the floor, which is not ideal. I'm putting one there, I think. Yeah, that's the best place to put it. Unless I'm talking about the table. Either way. Yeah, no. Dead Poets Society. What I like about it is it's a story about you should be free. You should express yourself in the wildest ways that you are, and the most special ways that you are, even if that way is not that special at all, or even if that way is contrary to others, or things like that. And you should believe what you believe and hold it near and dear, but also do not shy away from learning, being taught, because obviously they learn poetry. That's a thing that they learn. But a greater nuanced part of it that I feel like I missed when I first watched it, and I think it's very easy to miss if you just look at it as just like a freedom story, like free yourself and become a poet, is what was the quote? Isn't that what you wanted, for us to suck on the marrow of life? And the teacher, oh captain, my captain, he says, yes, but sucking on the marrow does not mean choking on the bone. Right? And that's so powerful. That means, I think that to me rings out a lot more than the freedom story. Because the freedom story everyone gets. The way Dead Poets Society does it really well. But sucking on the marrow of life does not mean choking on the bone. Means you can experience life in the way that you are, in the most unique way that you are and always will be, and expressing that is fine and is all good, but do it within reason, do it within limits,
right? Be foolish, and then if you find out, cool, don't do it again. If you see something to be, not wise, don't do that as well. There's levels to it, and wisdom is something that as I grow older, it's such a different thing from intelligence, and it's more nuanced, and it's not very clearly defined what wisdom is, and I think it's for good reason, and I think it's because it's the nuance between intelligence. Wise people are intelligent, but not all intelligent people are wise. If that makes sense. I'm not wise. People told me I was, because I would parrot a lot of wisdom, but I think the true wisdom is starting now for me. I'm really getting a lot of the nuance in life now. I'm really understanding the reasons for why things happen, but not just on a material level, but on a human level, as a person, That's the kind of thing I'm learning. I got a reel from a friend. I'm happy to have friends who send me reels. I'll watch that later though, because I'm talking to you, which is just talking to me, to be honest. Yeah. So everyone's like, I want to be free. I want to do all this and that, but which is great, and you should be, but that kind of advice is more tailored towards people who already aren't free, or people who don't feel that way, people like me. But those people who are truly free, who are afraid of nothing, that's when it's scary, because then you have to tell them there are limits. And a lot of them, if they're stubborn enough, will just say, the fuck do you mean? No, there are no limits to this life, man. And it's not so much that there are literally limits, but more that there are limits that are agreed upon by people. Almost unspoken, things that aren't necessarily taught. And if you ask me, they should be. Not in like a sit down and write it kind of way, but more of like a hey, you shouldn't do this, by the way, or this is like a thing that exists, and this is why we do this. So think about that kind of way, Yeah, I think I'm gonna work on switching my language out a lot to sound less like instruction, but you can do it any other way, by the way, to more like this is hard. So there's to more like we do it this way to enable this, by the way, and this is generally how it's done kind of way, learning to be more specific in the language that I use, so that it doesn't give the wrong impression. And not that I can control how I how the things that I say are necessarily taken, you know, but I can do what I can to mitigate it, you know. Being in a relationship taught me that, and having broken up taught me that sometimes what I intend to say and what is received can be two different things, and sometimes I just can't control that. The way something's taken, I can only do the best I can to mitigate the risk of misunderstanding, right? Because my idea of you is never you. My idea of the way you'll take something is never the way you take something. It's never gonna be that way. It can only be a representation. Like, the way I think of anyone will always only ever be a representation of that person. Even if it's correct, it's a representation. Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people will probably like listen to whatever I'm saying and be like, that's obvious, dude, duh. But here's the thing, a lot of things that are like obvious are never said. A lot of things that are obvious are never heard by people who need to hear them the most, like me. Well, perhaps I'm not one of the people that need to hear it the most, but definitely people who need to hear it the most don't hear it because they're like, oh, it's obvious. And that sucks to me, because if you think of everything as obvious, if everyone thinks of everything as obvious, nothing is. Because there's always, like I said, like people are just like that. They'll always have a representation of people in their heads, and never the actual person. So because of that uncertainty, you really can't control it. So the best thing you can do is just mitigate as much as possible. And I'm condensing wisdom down to intelligence, right? In like, no, not intelligence. I'm condensing wisdom into like an explainable format, which a lot of people I feel like a lot of people would think is just like, it doesn't become wisdom anymore. But no, I think wisdom should be translated. That's the wise thing to do, is to make it as easy for others to learn as possible. Also to allow them to just go through the experience so that they can learn themselves. That's wise. I think. It has the semblance of wisdom, at least. And then once that happens, it's like, cool. And I don't know. Yeah. That's another thing from Dead Poets Society. It was like, he gathers the students and asks them to read the introduction of this book, and the book outlines like an objective measure of I think it was how good the poem is versus how influential it is, and you can plot it on an axis, which, if you ask me, it sounds fairly reasonable, but I also agree with the message that that's kind of redundant. That kind of doesn't make any sense, because yeah, those measures exist, sure, but that's not why the poem exists, and why poems exist in general. And so what he instructs all the students to do is to rip out that page, that introduction, to say, kind of say fuck you, to say fuck you to the fact that it's you're reducing what a poem is down to its influence and how quote unquote good it is by a measure of something, which kind of perfectly explains what I really hate about the political system right now, to be honest. Not that I know anything about politics, but from what I've been explained, it's dumb. Everything's dumb. It's so stupid. You know, I understand the reasons for why certain things exist and certain things happen in the order of operations. I just think the way societally it's being handled is just shit. But I'm not qualified to talk about that. But then again, what the teacher from the Dead Poets Society also says is, don't just consider the writer's intentions behind why they said something. Also consider what you think about it. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, to get to like a good understanding of what you think about it, you need a good understanding of certain aspects of certain things, and kind of like think about it like an uncalibrated machine. You know, if it doesn't have the necessary previous information, the reading it gives is kind of like messed up as well, and which is also fine. Technically speaking, any interpretation that you give is fine so long as it's an interpretation from you that's not performative, right? But just like the way a child is unable to explain something because they don't have the tools for it, you won't have the tools to explain why something is good or the way it is if you don't practice it, right? Either way, my point is there's... Oh, my camera died. Shit. Oh. Well, either way, my point is that you exist and you are important. Well, I exist and I am important. And my opinion is valued not in that it has any intrinsic value, they're just words or thoughts, right? But like physically it doesn't have any value, you know, but ideologically they're my thoughts. I'm a person that exists in this world, and those thoughts matter to someone, and that's at least me, you know. And if someone else shares a similar thing, that's okay too, that's cool, you know, that's very well invited. But my voice is mine, and I should be proud of the fact that it's mine. Maybe not prideful, but proud, you know. And once that's established, it's like, well, I'm proud that it's mine, and I hold it near and dear to my heart. But if it's a logical thing and it gets disproved, that's okay. But the feelings are mine, you know, and that's something typically that you can't control, or even if you can control it, you can't control when it comes. You can't control your feelings, but you can control how you react, you know. And your feelings are yours, you know. All of this to say, basically, that when giving someone the tools to go through life, or just educating someone on something, part of that necessity is a very core and important thing, which is that learning to what should I say? learning to embrace the individual that you are and understand it, and at the same time understand the world around you and the people around you, and coexist. And I really do mean coexist, right? A lot of people think it's one or the other, or like think of it as two separate things, as the self and everyone else. But everyone is a version of you, right? A different version of you, looks different, acts different, feels different, but they're a version of you. Like, a lot of people I see, actually almost everyone out there that I've seen, I can see myself morphing into that person if I had taken a different path in life. I can see myself understanding them. And with that knowledge, I have no choice but to be kind to myself. Or at least from my point of view, because I've been unkind to myself and very forgiving of the world. But the way to correct that now for me is to be forgiving to myself and maybe a little more stern with the rest of the world. But for a lot of people, it's to forgive the rest of the world and be a little less stern to the rest of the world and a little more open to the rest of the world, because I feel like a lot of people, I feel like my ex closes themselves to the world. It's a little sad. I feel like I never got to know her scars, where they came from, things like that. My brother's being goofy. But that's okay. I'm learning to understand that it's okay. I know that it's okay, but I'm learning to absorb it within and allow it to become a part of me. And that takes time. And that takes lots of repeating. And I'm very patient with other people when they're learning, and I let them fail as much as they need to, as much as they want, as much as they can. But I don't do that for myself. I treat myself like shit. And I'm fixing that. I don't treat myself like absolute dog shit anymore. I treat myself better. Not perfect. Not great, but better. Anyway, I don't know. The camera died, and I should probably have to sleep. It's almost 1, but oh yeah, and also I created a grade for my stuff, for my footage. I'm thinking of tweaking it as I go and making it better and better. But for now, that's it. Yeah. All right. Bye. Good night.